our second session speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Aisha Sultana works as a wildlife biology ecologist under the Biodiversity Park program at the University of Delhi. She received her MSc and PhD in wildlife science from Aligarh Muslim University, India. She gained 22 years of research experience from different projects in wildlife sciences and biodiversity conservation. She has more than 20 years of professional experience in the restoration and management of ecosystem of Delhi through developing biodiversity parks. She has published more than 40 research articles in leading international and national journals, conference proceedings, and books. Her deep interest focus on conservation, ecology, and restoring degraded habitats of wild animals. Now, I would like to request Dr. Aisha Sultana for her talk to participants. Over to Dr. Aisha Sultana.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes,
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
Yes,
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, again. And it's my privilege that now today I have been invited by the AMU for giving you something on lecture on this topic on the biodiversity conservation. So I chose actually that the topic of the pollinators. I don't know that whether you have something learned about this or not in your this session, but I have chosen this pollinators and the effect of the pollinators in our this thing in our world. But basically, I'm from the wildlife background, and my background is basically expertise in the ornithology, that is the birds. And but now in the recent past years, I have just started my interest in these pollinators and insects and like that, because they play a very crucial role in this. So I think I should start with the sharing my presentation in this. Just wait. Can you see the slides?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Okay, it means that it is shareable. Okay, now let's start with this pollinators and the importance in the conservation, sort of like that. Because today I'm here to discuss a topic actually that affects each and every one of us. That is the pollinators. And they range from the smallest insects to the largest mammals. And they play actually a crucial role in our world, which facilitating the reproduction of flowering plants and ensuring the production of fruits, nuts, and seeds. And suppose if I say that, imagine that we are waking up to a world without the vibrant colors of these blooming flowers, or the bees or butterflies and the sights of the fruit and vegetables, and we are not seeing anything. So that the bleak scenario actually that underscores that critical role that pollinators play in the life as we know it, and that is the sustainable life. And if I ask you that, did you know that the pollinators are responsible for 1 out of every 3 bites of the food we eat? Because whatever we are eating, so I think the 1/3 of that food, the pollinators, they are responsible for that. And if we go into the deep into this fascinating subject, we will explore the incredible diversity of these pollinators. And they are from bees, butterflies to birds, and their intricate relationship with the flowering plants. And if we just make them together, then they form a very complex web of interactions essential for the health of ecosystems and the agricultural systems worldwide. And when we say the agricultural systems, then it means that is directly related to the human being. So how much they are just responsible for that. So yeah, let's go ahead. Now, suppose first of all, if we go talking about this, the pollinators, we're talking about the pollination, that what exactly the pollination is. And if we see that the pollination, that is the transfer of the pollen from the stamen to the pistil, like pollination, and it starts the production of the seeds, because when the seeds that come, then they become the fruits. And they are the two types of pollination, that is the self-pollination and the biotic pollination. So this self-pollination is actually it is a reproductive process, okay, in which pollen from the male reproductive organ of a flower is transferred to the female. So from here to here, and then from another flower on the same plant. So this actually process leads to fertilization and the production of seeds without the involvement of the external pollinators. So this is the self-pollination if we talk about. Like suppose that in the pea plants, if we talk about that, the Pisum sativum, which we say the scientific name, that this self-pollination, it happens when the pollen from the stamens lands on the stigma of the same flower or the another flower on the same plant. So this process actually ensures the seed production without the external pollinators. It doesn't need the help of any external pollinator, suppose bees, ants, or bats, or butterflies, or anything else, and they go for the self-pollination. And another one is the cross-pollination. So the cross-pollination, it is the reproductive process when the pollen is transferred from this male reproductive organ of the one flower to the female reproductive organ of the another flower, often in the different plant. So this is called as the cross-pollination. And this process actually, it promotes the genetic diversity within the plant population and is facilitated by the external agents, such as, suppose we can say that by the winds or by the waters or by the insects, birds or animals. So this is the, it promotes that, it highlights the genetic diversity. Whereas when we say about that the self-pollination, so it doesn't attract with the genetic diversity. Suppose if we say about that in the apple trees, that is the Malus domestica, cross-pollination occurs when the bees transfer the pollen from the flowers of one tree to the another tree. And when it is exchange of pollen between different individuals, it leads to the fertilization of ovules, and then resulting in the production of seeds with the diverse genetic combination. Because it happens when the, as you all know, might be knowing from the background of the bio or like that, so that the how much importance is the genetic combination, that when if there is no genetic diversity, then we will not be able to have so many just like flowers or the fruits or the vegetables or any trees, plants like that. Or even in the animal kingdom also, you will not be having any the diversity of the like that animals. And this cross-pollination, that is the crucial for enhancing that the fruit quality and the yield and overall plant resilience. And it happens only just for the cross-pollination. Like here, I'm just showing you with the diagram, with the help of the diagram. Like here with the self-pollination, like it happens that the pollen from one flower, it is going pollinate the same flower on of the same individuals, or the other flowers of the same individuals. Like this is the self-pollination. It is happening only in the one flower. And here there's allogamy, that's the cross-pollination. It is happening in the different individuals of this. And the one part of this cross-pollination is this, that with the help of the pollinator, that who is responsible for taking the pollen grains to the female productive organ, that is the stigma, through the stigma, and the pollens, they are going into the ovule for forming the seeds and for forming the fruits. And if we talk about that, the mechanism of pollination. So again, it is of the different types. That suppose if we say that the first one is this, the abiotic pollination. Abiotic pollination means where the biotic something that is the missing, and that is not there. Abiotic means something which has happened by the wind, by the water, or by some any other environmental factor. This pollination is happening. And suppose that first example that I'm showing you here, you have seen, you might have seen that many plants or many herbs are like that, the seeds they are dispersing, and even that the pollens, they are just spreading everywhere like that. So it is this pollination, it is occurring through the wind. Here, no other external, I mean, say that any external biotic factor that is not responsible for the taking the pollens to the different female productive organs. And here, this is the water, where the water is actually the medium from where the pollens they are carrying from one flower to the another flower. So this is the abiotic pollination, which occurring through the various mechanisms, including that the wind, water, and others. But if we talk about that, the biotic pollination, this biotic pollination means that where these pollinators, they are responsible for that. They are actually the carrying the pollens from one flower to the another flower. Like animal pollinated, they use attractive floral traits such as the bright colors, scents, and nectars to attract the pollinators. And here we are just talking about that what are these pollinator and the plant interaction. I mean to say that how these pollinator and these plants they interact actually, and these are the evolving in the evolution, through the evolution, that they say the ecological process. And whereas these pollinators, if we talk about such as the bees, butterflies, birds, and bats, they facilitate this transfer of pollen from the male reproductive organs of flowers to the female reproductive organs, and which enables the fertilization and the seed production in the plants. And these actually the interactions, they are characterized by the mutualistic relationships where pollinators and plants benefit. And when I talk about this, the mutualistic relationship, it means the pollinators and these plants, they are both benefiting by each other. It is not the thing that only the plant that is the benefiting by the by taking the pollen grains or pollens in it, but here the pollinators, they are also getting benefited by the plants. They get the food resources like nectar or pollen, and whereas side by side is the plants, they reproduce successfully. And there are many mechanisms actually that includes that the floral morphology, that what is the morphology of the fruits of the flowers, and what is their color, what is the scent, even that, and then the nectar production, how much nectar they are producing, which is attracting the pollinators. That has involved actually in the plants to attract the specific pollinators, because these pollinators, they are very much specific to the flowers, that of which flowers they are going for the pollination, and those flowers, they are very much specific for the pollinators, that okay, I'm going to that the getting this thing from the pollens by which medium. So that plant, that is again very much specific, and it was leading to that the co-evolutionary dynamics between the plants and their pollinators. And it is a very long history of the evolution of the millions of years, like how much how they are attracting each other, and how they have evolved together actually. If we say that okay, that the plants, they have come much before, and after that these pollinators have come, but these flowering plants, because they are just benefiting by these pollinators, and their relationship is like that, benefiting each other and the mutualistic relationship. But how they have evolved, that is a very long evolutionary process. And like that, if I talk about that, the some traits that what the pollinators have developed these traits, and how the flowers actually they have developed these traits. So if we talk about the pollinators, so if you can see that this is the diagram that I'm talking about, the sunbirds or the bats and the honeybees. So their traits are different, like that the body shape is different, their mouth shape is different, their food preference is different, their behavior is different. Suppose if we talk about that, the sunbird, it is having a very long beak, okay? So very long beak, which is penetrating into the flower. So whatever the flower it is pollinating, so that flower must be having some sort of a funnel shaped flower, so that its beak can go inside and that take the nectar, because it is benefiting, and beside that flower which is through it is collecting the pollen, and again it is going on to the another flower of the same species, and then the transferring the same pollen from its beak. So this is the trait actually they have developed. And if we talk about these flowers, then these flowers actually they have different traits, like suppose in their color, their scent, even their shape, which I'm talking about this the sunbird case. And this is the pollen amount, that how much they are producing the pollen, and they're the nectar amount. Suppose if the sunbird is sunbird wants more nectar, so it will go that the more nectar plant, okay, which is producing more nectar. And these honeybees, okay, suppose because they are very tiny, so at the moment they want very little amount of that the nectar, so they will go on the flower which are very much attracting, and even they can get the smallest amount of nectar and abundant of pollens in that, so that their body will cover in the pollen, and then when they visit on the suppose other different flower, then they can transfer those pollens onto the different flower. And sometimes they can be the white color also, because the moths, they are very much good pollinators. So because moths, they are active in the night time and they cannot see the colors. So those flowers, they are the scented also, and they are the white color also. So these are the different traits actually of the pollinators and the flowers. They have evolved together. They have just developed actually these different traits just to get for the mutual benefits each other. And when we talk about that, what are actually these pollinators? So pollinators are the animals. They're the biotic, and it includes that the insects, birds, and the mammals also. So you can see that there's a wide variety and the wide range of the pollinators. We cannot say that only the bees, they are the pollinators. No, not only the bees, but the wasps also the pollinators, beetles also the pollinators, the ants also the pollinators. So they come in the insects. But again, there's so many birds. But if we talk about the bird, which is the pollinator, that is the bird, sunbird. And then the mammals comes on, which in the mammal section, we can say that is the bat actually, which goes and we say that the frugivorous bats, okay. And these frugivorous bats, actually, they just visit on the different flowers. And so the mammal, because bat is the mammal, so there's a different range and the wide range of the pollinators. And as I told you that they transfer pollen from the anthers to the stigma of the same or the different flower. So this is the pollinators. And they are the essential for the reproduction of the many plants, including those actually that provide food for humans and the other animals. And humans and other animals means that the earth. Okay, so they are essential for, if we talk about that, the reproduction of the plants or the flowering plants. Okay, and they provide actually the food to us and to other human beings. And where we live, that is the earth, that is a very you can say that it's an intricate relationship. We cannot live without the plants, and you know that it's not the thing that I should tell you that okay, we can live without the plants or without the vegetation or without this thing, because ultimately we are the last one who came on this earth, that the human being. Okay, and other the animals or the plants, they have come before us, so they have the right actually before us. We are the last one who are just dealing everything, we are destroying, and then we are just come on jump on us. No, we have to save them. Because why we want to save them? Because we are dependent on them. Okay, so that is altogether different thing. But that the thing is that they provide food, at least because they are providing food to the humans and to other animals. So for the that sake, actually they are the very much important, these plants. And they include many different types of the pollinators, like I talked that the moths also, even squirrels also, they also sometimes they visit, but that is not a very big study on the squirrels, but it is like that the butterflies, bees, moths, birds, bats, they are very good pollinators for this. So we should actually we should know them, that what are these pollinators, we should understand them, and the last thing that we should adopt them. Okay, we have to adopt them. Otherwise, if we are not going to adopt them, we are going to lose everything, and we are not understanding this thing now this time. But if we are just losing them, then we are going to lose our food. So when we start with this, that how the bees and the wasps, for the study of the pollination by the bees and wasps, it is called as the entomophily. They have the different names, and they are actually the most highly efficient pollinators. If we talk about the pollinators and the pollination, at once we just have in our mind that we are talking about the bees, because everywhere we see that the bees, they are just pollinating, they're going from the flower to flower like that, and they collect pollen. So at once we just have in our mind that okay, that the bees, they are the highly efficient pollinators, and this makes them actually the essential for the reproduction of many plant species. And they're also that when we say that the diverse pollinators, because they come in a wide variety of sizes. There are so many species because of the bees. They are just flying around you, and you even don't know that we are seeing that the different species. We just see that okay, this is the honeybee. No, there are so many species of these honeybees also, which are carrying the nectar, which are crossing them, which are carrying the pollen, which are making our food, and we don't know. And so that's why they visit to the small flowers to the larger ones. And these plant species, actually they are completely dependent on these bees and wasps for pollination. And I will show you in the next slides or like that. So that in the example like that, the figs, which we talk about, that there's the anjeer or gular or like that, the ficus racemosa and like that. So these figs, actually they can only be pollinated by the fig wasp. And those are totally different, those fig wasp. And while these if we talk about that the almond or apples or so many berries, they are only pollinated by the honeybees. So they are totally dependent on this. If these bees, wasps, or specifically the pollinators, if they are not there, then you would not be able to eat, or you can see that the figs or the apples, those will disappear from the earth. And side by side, these bees and these wasps, they pollinate actually many of the crops in our agricultural systems. And this, without bees and on these wasps, this food production, that will be severely impacted. And in many areas of in many countries even, and in many areas of this earth, actually where the bees have gone extinct, some of the species. So there is going to be a great crisis for the food, because then they're going for the artificial this pollination, and which is going to impact their financial also, and which is even not possible, because whatever is the natural way, that is the of the pollination and the food production, and that you cannot go for in the artificial way. and which is leading to very much food shortage and with the higher prices. Like when I was talking about those the fig wasp that which is very much critical, and those only are the responsible for the production of this, which we can say that the gular or anjeer, whatever that the figs we have in this, and there's so many ficus species in our this thing. So, and these figs, they are unique. And these, if I talking about that, the ficus racemosa, so that the fig wasp is the unique in the required of the specific type of the wasp, so known as the fig wasp. So they are the name of these fig wasp is the fig wasp, and they are very, very tiny. Actually, that usually that is less than the 2 mm in size. I'm sorry, I'm getting disturbed by. Hello. Hello. Okay, thank you. This wasp, actually they are very tiny, and they're usually they are the less than the 2 mm in size, very, very tiny. Now you can imagine that how much can be the 2 mm, that is very less, and it is not very much noticed by you. Even if you see that, you cannot see that this is the fig wasp. So if you see that this is the whole diagram of this, the how we the living in the fig. So this is totally a cycle of that, how it pollinates that fig. Suppose when in our childhood we used to see that when we open that the fig, and then we see lots of insects in that. Then somebody used to tell us in our childhood that, oh, you eat those insects also, and then you will get a very good eyesight. So I remember that I had so many I had many times that I have eaten these insects also. So they were actually that those were the larvae of the figs, small figs, and which were present in that flower. So actually the methodology of this thing and the life cycle is that it is very much interesting. So if you say that there's a making and enters, like this is the female fig wasp. Okay, and it is covered in the pollen grain. Okay, it burrows in the fig's opening. One small fig opening is there always when you see any fig fruit. Okay, it enters from that, and in this process its wings, actually they are the torn off. Okay, now then the wingless, this female wasp, it enters with the covered with the full of the pollen. It enters into the fig, and when it enters, what it does, it lays her eggs. Okay, it lays her eggs in it, and then spend the last day of her life. And then, because that is the end of her life, because after laying egg, now that is the end of her life. And she spent the last day of her life digging tunnels through the fig flesh. Now what she does, she digs the tunnels in the flesh of the fig inside. And why she does that? Just to protect young, because after laying eggs, when then the larva comes out, and then that will be going inside the flowers that have unborn wasp, like wasp, they laid inside the close up in a protective bud. This is the bud, and they laid inside, while other flowers, they are the pollinated, because flowers are inside in this fig. Okay, and after that, this mass hatching of this eggs, because she has laid her eggs in the fig, and then after that the mass hatching occurs, and then when grown, these wasps begin to emerge from their pods. Okay, and now you can see that this intricacy, that the male wasp, actually they born first. Okay, and then they explore the inside of the fig, that what is happening and what is there. So explore their inside, and then they mate with the females before they are released. And then they when the females hatch, then they mate with the females, and before that, before being releasing actually from the flowers. And this flowering fig, now the fig and the wasp, they have evolved actually together to synchronize their actions. And pollen is produced by the fig before the female wasp hatch so that they can pick it up. Now you can see that this is the pollen. Okay, it is produced by the fig. Okay, and in the flower, flower itself, it is produced by the fig, and before the female wasp hatch, because first the male wasp hatched, and after that the pollen actually it has been produced. After that, the female wasp, they have hatch so that they can pick it up. And after that, the male lives are far less glamorous without the wings. The only job left is to help dig escape tunnels before their short lives are over. And in between, actually, what they does, they mate with the female wasp and started digging the tunnels. And when the female wasp, that is what fertilized and the pregnant and equipped with the pollen also, because this fruit has got the pollen also, and then it escaped through the tunnel which has been dug by the male, and then they just go and go for the new fig. Okay, and then they find the new fig, and then again they enter with because they have the pollens also of this fruit, and then they again go the different flowers, they enter in that, and then again the same process it starts. And it is very much interesting that these tiny wasps, which I told you that they are only the 2 mm in size, they can fly up to the 10 kilometers or maybe somewhat or the more than that to find their new home. And after that, entering the different fruit, their life ends. So it is only that thing that the evolution of these two fig wasp and the figs, that is all together. If suppose this fig wasp is not there, then no wasp will enter in this and no fertilization will be there. So it ends, then this fig will also end. So you'll not be able to see any fig fruit on the earth if this fig wasp is not there. And another species which are pollinated by the bees and the wasp, they are the mango, even the guava, mustard, which is very much essential crop for our agricultural system, even this pomegranate, and many species are there actually which are responsible and which are actually dependent for the pollination by these pollinators. And now when we come to the ants, I talked about that, the bees and the wasp. Now the ants. The study of the pollination of these ants, that is called the myrmecophily. And these ants, actually, they also visit the flower to flower, plant to plant. And in that roaming here and there, they carry the, you can say that the pollen grains also. And they play an important role in the pollination. And nobody actually sees, most of the time people just overlook their contribution, that what is their contribution, but they contribute a lot. And they are actually attracted to the flower by their sweet nectar. And they can, and in that process, they transfer pollen as they move from flower to flower. And very much they are important in the pollination, as I talked about that the bees and wasps, that there are many plant species that have co-evolved with them. And some species of plants, they have evolved that the specialized flowers that provide food and shelter to ants in exchange for the pollination services. And these plants, if you can see over here, that this is the oil-rich abundance, which is called at the elyosome. And what these ants, they do, these plants, they grow these elyosome, which is the nutritious oil-rich appendage, and these ants, they get attracted to this elyosome, and then in that attraction, they collect the seed, and then they feed on this elyosome, or you can say that the gland of that tree and then disperse the seed also in that process. So this is again the evolution actually between those species, because why they will grow that this nutritious this elyosome. They grow it because they want these ants to attract to themselves, and then in that process, so that it can carry these seeds to some another plants. Like if I talk about that some acacia species, if you see that some small those this iliosome, and it is guarded by actually many ants, so it attracts. And this is only the, you can say that there's an evolution which is going on. And again, when we talk about these ants, that it is also a part of the ecosystem, and they're playing a vital role in the reproductive success of certain plant species. So it's only one part of these ants that how they are important for the ecosystem, because I'm talking of today only the pollination, because and many other are their services which they are providing to these ecosystems, and we do not take care of these things. Now I'm showing about that these some wild species which are totally dependent on these ants for the pollination. Like if I talk about this Rasmasurensis or this Jamun Shizim cumini, or this Sharifa, or this Dalbergia shishu, that the shisham it is there. So these are the wild varieties, wild species which are found in the forest. And these species, they are totally dependent on the ants for the pollination or their success, because these plants they just grow this thing, and then they plant, and these ants they visit these flowers, and then these visit flowers, and in that process they just transfer their pollens, and they're dispersing this thing. Now if I talk about that the bats, these bats actually the species, and we can say that the study of this thing, pollination by the bats, it is called as the Chiropterophyly. And because this is belongs to that the Chiroptera, so this is the study which is the Chiropterophyly. And they also play an important role in pollination, as they are responsible for pollinating a variety of plants. Like if it's give Ziziphus. Ziziphus means like that, which you say that the bear, that one, and then the Oroxylum, like the Bombex Seba or the night jasmine. So these species, because these bats, they are the nocturnal one. So these species, they're totally dependent for the pollination and by the bats. Now you can see that the flower size, and which I talked about earlier also, that the different traits actually that these bats, and sorry, these flowers, they develop to attract the bats. They're white in color, they have scent also, and they're broad also in the size, so that the bats can come and then take the nectars from these flowers, and at the same time they can transfer the pollen from one flower to the another. And so that's why they are called as the night shift pollinators also, because the day shift pollinators are the butterflies or bees and wasps. They are the day shift pollinators, but these are the night shift. And these many bat species, they actually have long tongues that are specifically adapted for reaching the nectar of flowers. And some species even have a special pouch on their tongue that allows them to carry large amounts of nectar back to their roost. So the adaptation, and you can say that the traits they have developed by the long tongues, okay, for reaching the nectar of the flowers, and even they have the special pouch on their tongue. So they, when they carry the large amount of nectar back to their roost or back to the another flower, so side by side they carry the pollens also. And we talk about the whole world, then each and every continent, wherever we are, and in and every continent, whether it's a North American, South American, African continent, Asian continent, or the Australian continent. So if we have everywhere we have some tropical forest over there, so they have their own nectar feeding bats, their specific nectar feeding bats. So, but Unfortunately, that is altogether different. Say that they are declining because of the habitat loss, disease, and the other threats also. So, if we just losing these type of bats or these species, then we are going to lose so many species also. Like here I'm showing you that there's a Maduka longifolia, it's a mahua tree, tropical this thing. This is the bay ziziphus, and this is the bombexiba, semel, and this is the cactus even. So they all species, they are just pollinated by specifically by the bats, and they have the different traits by which these bats, they just get attracted by this thing. And they even in that which I talked about, that the mutualistic relationship, and in the return these bats, they get the nectar and the food, because these are the fruit eating bats. So some species are the fruit eating, and some species they are the insect eating bats. So but they're the fruit eating bats, and so they have a long snout also in their mouth. But those, when we're talking about the insect eating bats, they're not having the long snout. So they're having some different type of phase, like they're called the horseshoe bat, and like different things, they're the insect eating. So but they have developed, because they have to eat nectar, and they have to eat fruits and like that, because they're dependent on those fruits. So they have different type of this thing phase, and side by side, because they are, when they are going to eat this fruit, and side by side they're just collecting the pollens of the same flower, and then when they're going on the some different individual or some different plant, then they just carry the pollens from here, and then they transfer the pollens from there. So in direct way they are just carrying the pollens, and they're helping, and very good pollinators in this thing. Now, if I talk about that, the butterflies and the moths, because side by side that the bees and the wasp, and these butterflies and the moths, because they all come in the insects, so they're combinedly they study that is called as entomophily, and they are also very good pollinators, and they play a very vital role in the pollination. And they are actually the important pollinators of many flowering plants, which are having very large and like the showy flowers, like very colorful flowers, and large also, and even the small flowers also, but they're the very showy. And when they visit the flowers to feed on nectar, so in that uh, process they are transferring the pollen from the male parts of one flower to the female parts of another, and in that process it is helping in the production of fruits and seeds. And yes, they are very much important pollinators for the plants, in which for those plants actually which the bees and the wasp or other insects they do not visit. Even the beetles, they are very good pollinators. And these many species of these butterflies, they are attracted to the flowers that are open during the day and the night, because there are many night jasmine also, and champa, chameli, like that. You might have heard so many species of that. So how do they pollinate this thing? So there, that the moths, they are the pollinating this thing, because they're very good pollinators, and not much study has been done on these moths, that how they're pollinating, and how much the success they're getting in the moths. But they're totally dependent on the moths to pollinate, and the bats. And because I already told you that the traits are different for the bats pollination, pollination by bats, and the moths pollination, because they're totally different, the mammals and the insects. And these bees actually, they are more active during the morning and the evening. So in between of the daytime, where these butterflies, they are active in that, so that the pollination process, it is continuously. If I say that the pollination is on this earth is going on 24 hours, so that is not wrong, because somewhere something is there which is pollinating the different plants. If the bees and wasps, they are taking care in the evening, morning and the evening, then these butterflies, they are taking care in the daytime. Then in the moths and the bats, they are taking care of the night time. So that is the 24 hours journey, you can say, that which is going on, the process is going on. And they also, these butterflies actually, they also visit flowers that are higher off the ground, or when we say that upper canopy of the forest, where the bees, they don't visit actually many times. And so they just visit these flowers to pollinate. And they are actually very much specific also. Sometimes that when we talk about this Caparis decidua, which the local name, it is called as the teat also, in the Rajasthan and in the Gujarat, this thing. So these shrub, or you can say that this plant, it is totally dependent on the pollination for this Caparis decidua. This is the pioneer butterfly. So this pioneer butterfly, actually it pollinates this flower, and then afterwards that it fertilizes, and then it goes for the fruit production. And side by side, this butterfly, it lays its eggs only on this plant. It never lays its eggs on any other plant. Okay, and its caterpillars, it feeds only on the leaves of this plant, and then after become pupa, it also hatches at this thing. So again, it is the mutualistic relationship between this butterfly. This I'm not talking about the general butterfly, but this specific butterfly, because these specific butterflies, they're very much specific for the plants or the vegetation on which they have to lay eggs. This butterfly will not go to this plant for lay eggs. It will go only to this plant for laying eggs. If this plant is not there, then it will not lay its eggs on this thing, and it will leave the place. It will live forever. Whenever, if you are having this plant in your area, then this butterfly, you will see around this butterfly will come and lay its eggs, and side by side it pollinates this flower also. And same way that the Kadamba fruticosa, it is pollinated by these orange tip butterflies. This is the yellow orange tip butterflies, and many tips like the crimson tip butterfly, others also. So this flower, that is pollinated by these butterfly. This is again the common Mormon butterfly. This is the clerodendron. This is very, you can say that the local wild species of the Aravalli forest. We talk about that forest in the tropical forest, you can say like that. This is a very wild variety of this clerodendron, and very specific also. And the pollination, it is being done by the Mormon. However, this Mormon, it doesn't lay eggs on this clerodendron. It lays its eggs on some another species, such as that you can say that lime, this thing, Agel marmulus, you can say that the bale patra, or another species like the lemon, citrus, like that. So it lays its eggs on that also, and but it doesn't lay eggs on this, but for the nectar purpose, it visits this thing and it spreads the pollen from one plant to another plant, this clerodendron. So this Mormon is responsible for this one. And here it is one very much interesting why this is yucca cactus, and this is the yucca moth, which is totally dependent. This yucca plant, actually, this is totally dependent for its pollination on this yucca moth. It lays inside in this thing. You can say that it lays its eggs also in that, in this yucca plant, this cactus, and it pollinates this thing, and it totally depends on this moth only. And it is very much tiny. You even don't know that these moth species, what it is doing inside this thing, but it is actually the pollinating, and it is responsible for the flowering of this plant. This cactus, it is there, and you can, if you're seeing that there's such a beautiful flower is coming out of this cactus. So who is responsible for that? This is the yucca moth. It is responsible for that. Now, again, which I talk about that there are so many pollinators. So one very much important pollinator, this is the sunbird. Here it is that the purple sunbird, but if you talk about the total of India, or like in the world, there are many species of these sunbirds. If we talk about that in the Uttarakhand, there are so many species like the purple lotus sunbird or the Mrs. Gold sunbird. So very beautiful these sunbirds. They are very attractive in color. So this thing, that when they pollinate, they are totally dependent on the nectar. Sometimes they eat that this thing, you can say that the flower also, and they eat pollens also, but they feed on the nectar. As I already told you, that they're the beak that is responsible, which goes inside the flower and take the nectar. So the study of this pollination, this is the ornithophyly. Ornithophyly means that related to birds, and there's the ornithophyly, that is the study of the pollination by the sunbirds. And as I told you that they're playing many important role in the pollination, and particularly in the tropical and the subtropical regions of the world, because you don't find in the Arctic region or like that, because and in Arctic region obviously that you don't find many plants also like that. But in the tropical and the subtropical regions of the world, they are very much active, and they're very important pollinators. They're very much small, brightly colored birds that feed on the nectar. And as they feed, and in that process, they transfer the pollen from one flower to the another. And what is their trait? That trait is there that the long curved bills, which allow them to reach deep into the flowers to extract nectar. And inside their beak, there is a tongue also, which can lap up the nectar from the narrow tubular flowers. And if you just see these sunbirds, you might have seen that they're just hopping here and there. There's a fly, and then they are very much actually the territorial. They don't leave their territory so much. And territory means that they just select one area and then they just defend that feeding areas, which actually leads to more effective pollination within a given plant population. Suppose if you have a patch of one species or plant species, and you can say, suppose if I talk about the Tecoma stance, and then you have a patch of that Tecoma stance. So how the Tecoma stance will pollinate, okay, from one individual to another. In that case, it helps, the sunbirds helps in the pollination of that plant. It defends the territory. It doesn't go anywhere from that territory. So it hops from one plant to another plant, and then it flies to go to another plant. And in that process, it is just transferring the pollens from one tree to another tree to another tree, like that. So they are very much specific. And these some plants, they actually rely only on the sunbirds for their pollination. Such we can say that about the aloe vera, or the many species of the epatens and the Tecoma and the Tecomilla undulata, like that. I will show you in the next slide that what are these plants. So then maintaining actually the biodiversity also, because I told you earlier that the genetic material, they are just spreading by maintaining and sustaining the biodiversity. Like these are the flowers, actually they are totally dependent on the sunbirds for their pollination. Now you can see that there's the Tecoma stance, the impatiens like Tecomilla undulata. These all are actually the wild variety of the forest. I'm not talking about the any horticultural parks or flowers, or the any horticultural or the other variety of flowers. I'm totally talking about the wild species which are actually which has the responsibility to maintain the genetic wild variables inside them. And if we are going to lose that wild population from our forest, then it means we are just going to lose everything in the another varieties of the food, or another variety of that plant, or another variety of that flower. Because whatever the base is the wild gene. If we are going to lose that wild gene, it means we are going to lose everything. So I'm talking about the wild species which are totally dependent on this sunbird. And now you can see that the shape of this flower, and they are typically as if that it has been made for the sunbirds only, that it comes and then sits on this, and then it just penetrates its long bill in the flower, and then takes the nectar out of that. And in that process, it just transfers the pollen from one plant to another plant. So this is this thing that I'm talking about, that the importance of the pollinators. Whatever that I told you, that the different types of the pollinators, what are the different pollinators. But if I talk about that, the importance of the pollinators, they are essential for maintaining the biodiversity of our planet. Because if we have more diverse flowers, more diverse trees, more diversity of that crops, like anything, like that is the part of the biodiversity, and which is in our planet, actually this earth, this is more successful in that sense, because we have the biodiversity. If we don't have the biodiversity, it means that we cannot be here. And they are responsible for transferring pollens and for making the seeds and for making the fruits, and again the process which goes on again and again. And this process actually it ensures the reproduction of the flowering plants and is crucial for maintaining the ecosystem and providing food to many of them. Like if we talk about that, they're providing food to wild animals also, to another wildlife also, and also to us. So when we talk about these pollinators, so each of these actually species, they play a unique role in pollination, and their survival only, that is the vital for the continued health of the planet. And this when we talk about that, what is the forest and the food production, then if we talk about that, the 12 plant species, they provide approximately 75% of our total food supply. Now, can you imagine that if we just list down that only that the 12 plant species in this earth, they are responsible for making up over the 75% of our this thing total. And many microbial species, they protect against pests, decomposed waste, and the recycled nutrients like to soil nitrogen compounds. So these are actually the helping in the forest and the food production. And these birds, bats, dragonflies, nematodes, they actually serves as a natural pest control agents in these agricultural system. These sunbirds, butterflies, moths, honeybees, bumblebees, even I didn't tell you about that. Is the bumblebees and the beetles again, but they are very much important part of this pollination actually, and they're helping and this thing, and more of the important helping in production of many important fruit and vegetable. If we talk about the tomatoes or sunflowers, olives, grapes, almonds, apple, many others. And more than the 75% of the crops which is grown in the India, that is depend on the insect pollination. Insect pollinators means all the bees, wasps, beetles, butterflies, moths. And now you can imagine that the 75% of the crops, okay, it means a lot, that it is totally depend on the insect pollinators. And if these agriculture that continues to rely on the fewer species, if you're going to rely on the fewer species for our this agriculture system or the crop production, then it means that we are going to lose many varieties of crops and livestock also, because everything is dependent on each other. It is not the thing that if you remove one chain in between, that the whole system will collapse. So it is all dependent on one on each other. So everything is required in the food chain and the food web. Now, when we come to that, the threats to pollinators, that how we are losing these pollinators, and sometimes we don't even think that we are losing them. Because if you just see and observe very minutely wherever you live, that this is the today's situation. So it was the situation some years back. Are you not seeing the less butterflies? Are you not seeing the less bees or wasps in your surrounding area? Everywhere maybe you are seeing more buildings coming up and like that, and everywhere it is the concretizations and this thing, but you are losing these tiny insects, this thing, maybe because the butterflies, they are very much attracted by the attracted to the human being. So at least that you can observe that, are we losing these honeybees or bees, gnats, or how many times you can see that the sunbirds are there, or even bats. So even in the night, even I cannot say that you go in the night and then hunt, because if someone is very much specific to the study or the bat lovers or like that, so he or she can go in the night time and then see those bats. And but one should observe that why we are losing and why we are, what are the threats actually to these pollinators. And these pollinators, I already told you that the crucial role they are playing in this thing, and their natural habitats, it is destroyed. Why? It is destroyed for making of the agricultural, for the urbanization and other human activities. So ultimately that human activities, they are responsible for the this thing, for destroying their natural habitats. And as side by side, they are losing the source of food and the shelter also. And by those activities, everywhere that we are seeing the changes in the weather patterns and the increased temperature, because they are the insects, and these insects, they are the cold-blooded one. And these cold-blooded insect, they are affected very much by the climate change, or the increase in temperature, or the decrease in temperature. It directly affects to them because they cannot cope up with them. That if suddenly the temperatures increase, then they cannot adjust with that. If suddenly the temperature goes down, they cannot adjust with that. So the changes in that weather patterns, or maybe that the local weather patterns, and in the, we can say that in the broader way, that there's a climate change is going on, so that affects actually directly to them. And side by side, that affects the timing of the flowering and the behavior of the pollinators, because it can mismatch actually the pollinators and the plants they pollinate. So that can be having the negative consequences, because sometimes when the temperature is increased and the flower blooms suddenly, and at that time, that was not the time for the pollinators to emerge from their this thing, you can say that from the pupa, or from their this thing eggs, or like that. So that is the mismatch between these things. And another main threat by them, that is the invasive species that can compete this thing. So with native plants for resources, and reducing the availability of food and habitat for the pollinators, and the fragmentation of natural habitats, which is reducing the availability of suitable habitat for pollinators, and which is making more difficult for them to find food and mate. So these all threats are there contributing to decline actually. And if I talk about that, the habitat loss and the fragmentation, but that what is affecting them, that first of all, that is the disruption of the foraging patterns. Like the habitat loss, if the some place that the habitat is they have lost the habitat, and that fragments the natural landscape, then this force actually the pollinators to travel to longer distances between patches of suitable habitat, and it increases the travel distance, and which leads to the higher energy expenditure. And higher energy expenditure means less collection of the nectar and the more depth of the pollinator. And another this thing is that this habitat loss, it destroys the native plant communities, and it reduces the availability of nectar and the pollen sources for the pollinators. Because habitat means that where the flowering plants are there for them. And it also affecting the genetic isolation and the reduced gene flow. This habitat fragmentation, they isolates actually the pollinator population. That one pollinator population is here, and then another pollinator population is suppose many kilometers away from that. And if that habitat fragmentation is there, then it means it is isolating. If the fragmentation is not there, if it continues, then it means they are getting the continuous habitat for them. So they are not losing this thing, and they are not isolating each other. So and by this there is a isolation of the genes, and which reduce the gene flow, and it can increase the disease also in the environmental stresses also due to the inbreeding depression. Wherever the inbreeding is there, it increases the diseases also and the stresses also. And another threat is by this, that these fragmented habitats actually, they bring pollinators into very much closer proximity to agricultural areas where the pesticide use is prevalent. And these smaller habitat patches, they expose pollinators to higher predation risks, further compromising their survival. And another very much threat by this habitat loss and fragmentation is that this the altered community dynamics. This the habitat loss and this fragmentation, they disrupt actually this, and they restrict these pollinator communities. They altering their networks also, and this ecosystem stability also that is in threatened. So this habitat loss and fragmentation, it just going havoc on these pollinators. And another threat is that is the pesticide use. Everybody knows that if we use that pesticide, then we are going to lose these pollinators. But how? But how we are just using because of these pesticides? Because these pesticides, mainly when we talk about that, these insecticides or the fungicides or any herbicide, any site, I mean to say, that it are very much creating toxicity to pollinators. They directly actually poison these pollinators if they're going to be contact or they're going to ingest it, because they spray these pesticides on the flowers, on the plants, on the crops, and everywhere, to maybe not to kill honeybee but to kill something else. But in the indirect way, these honeybees or these bats or sunbirds or any pollinator I'm talking about, they are directly taking that poison in it. So even that the low level of that pesticide exposure, that can impair the pollinators' health. And ultimately, that is going to decrease foraging efficiency, navigation abilities, and the reproductive success. It hampers a lot. And the doses, even that is the very much the sublethal and the significant effect on this. And their immune response, their learning abilities, and their cognitive function, they lose everything because of this pesticide. Even these pesticides and herbicides, they just affect the human being, you can understand. But how much they are just affecting these insects or these pollinators. And when you disrupt their foraging behavior, it alter the means that they're not going to, they will avoid that contaminated flower. Okay, then they will have to go for their another navigation skill, because these honeybees, especially if I talk about the honeybees, they have a very crucial and special that navigation skill, that how they dance, how they move for different flower to flower for getting, and how they communicate, and to tell another honeybee that yes, I am doing this type of dance for this purpose, I'm doing this type of navigation for this purpose. So it affects actually that skill also because of this pesticide, because that is going to avoid those flowers. So how they are just going to avoid the navigation skill, and ultimately that is going to affect their reproduction and their development also, because it is very much lethal, this thing on that, their sperm viability or the egg development and the larval survival. If you just go and spray a pesticide and an insecticide in your garden or in this thing, you won't see any butterflies and any honeybees over there. They just leave you at that phase, and then again then you want that should be there, they leave that. And then by that side, and if they are just that is a directly effect on them, but what we are getting, we are getting the indirect effect, that is our food resources, because then in that case we are not going to get any fruiting this thing, any plants, whatever I've shown you, and more of them, because I've shown you some very low examples, very small examples, but there's a wide variety of the you can say that the wild trees or the in our crops and like that, which are totally dependent on the pollinators. So we're not going to go that. And like I have shown you this thing, that this is the hand pollinating apple blossom, because if you are not having this plant or bees in that area, because these apple, they are totally dependent on the honeybees for their pollination. Because, but I've taken this example from the Maxion County, which is at the border of the China and Nepal. So they are, what they're doing, they're pollinating the apple trees by hand, because bees in these region have gone extinct. And this is, and why? Because in excessive use of the pesticide, and it takes actually the 25 people to pollinate 100 trees, a job done much more effectively by 2 beehives only. Okay, suppose if you have just only 2 beehives over here, so that can be effectively and more this thing flow of the genes that is done, that can be done by them. But now it is being done by this women, and then what she is doing, she's just collecting the pollen from one tree and then is transferring to another this thing. And it is happening in our country also. Even in Himachal Pradesh, so many people, they are just engaging in these this thing, pollinating apple blossoms. And even in the south also, many species, like suppose it's the lady's finger, they are just going for this hand pollinating. Somewhere it is agreed also that maybe the bees are not there, so we just go for the direct pollinate this thing and get the crop as much. But the main reason behind is that we are losing the bees and the pollinators, which are responsible for the pollination, for their flowers, and then for the seeds and the fruit production. So that is the very much time effective also, and which is very much for the higher prices also, this thing. And now when we talk about this, the climate change, that how this climate change actually is affecting these pollinators. Like I told you that this effect by this climate change actually, and this weather changing, the weather patterns, and temperature high or temperature low, it is affecting the phenology of the flowers. Like suppose that flowering, the emergence times and mismatched, and then lead some flowers to flower outside the pollinator activity periods. Like suppose if the pollinator activity period starts from March, if I talk about this region, tropical region, it starts from the March to up to June, July, like that. So, and at that time and before that, if the temperature suddenly rises in the January and the flowering starts outside that optimal time, then from where we can get the pollinators, because that is not the time for the pollinators to emerge. So that is the actually affecting the mismatching timings also, and it shifts the range also. They shift the plant and pollinator distribution, that is forcing migration to new habitats, and it disrupts the plant pollinator interactions. Habitat loss and degradation, again, that is dependent on the climate change also, because what I'm telling you, that this is all interdependent. Like habitat loss, we are doing the habitat loss, and the degradation, we are responsible for that. And for that the climate change happens, and then by the climate change, that so many things are happening too, if we are talking about only for the pollinators. So that all together, that hampering these flowers and the phenology, this thing. And it increased the frequency of the extreme events also. Suppose like it disturbing foraging and reducing floral resources also, leading to population decline. Like I told you that in the Mexico country, that which is at the border of the China and Nepal, that what is happening, they lost the bees population over there, and now they are totally dependent on themselves by hand pollinating this thing. So that is the population decline, but they have gone the extinct over from this. And by this climate change, actually the invasive species and this disease, it spreads. This climate change actually, that aids the invasive species and the diseases. It disrupts the plant pollinator relationships and threatening the pollination. I told you then the detail, and next slide, this how this invasive species actually, this is spreading, and how they are threatening to the pollinators. Because these invasive species, suppose if we talk about that, the Prosopis flora, or the Chenopodium, or the Parthenium, lantana. If I talk about the lantana, that one can say that, okay, they are very much favorable for the butterflies and for the bees, because they go and then they take the nectar also. But in another form, this lantana, that is affecting the another biodiversity of that area, and that is the invasive species. But the another invasive species which are talking about, that they are taking the space of the local native species. They're competing, because that's why they are called the invasive species. And they are reducing their flower resources, and they're causing the nutrition stress. And this is the pollinator foraging efficiency. Because when we talk about the invasive species, so these invasive species, they have not co-evolved with the pollinators of this area. Okay, that in a species might have the somewhere else place, like some South America, this thing, or from the Mexico. So their pollinators actually, they have evolved with that species of that place. But those plant species, they are not evolved with pollinators in that space, in this here. So that's why they don't actually like these species, and these invasive species, they compete with our local native plants. And in that process, the pollinators, you can say in a very simple language, that they get confused, and that they just it's reducing their floral resources, and then they go on and then searching for their wild ones, their native ones, because they don't find anywhere, and that reduce their foraging efficiency also, and which goes for the nutritional stress. Nutritional stress means they're not getting the nutrition which they get from the wild one. Okay, and this is again that invasive species, they are for the disruption of the habitat. This exotic plants, what they do, they alter the habitats, and they reduce resources and shelter for pollinators, which leads to decline in population abundance and then the diversity. And by these invasive species, many diseases which might you have seen that in the coming years also, and in the last so many years also, that many diseases actually which might not have heard, they're coming up, and they can transmit new diseases to native pollinators from their area to here, and which weakens the immune system. Their immune system, and mortality happens and population decline again, and then again that the relationship is altered by this invasive species. And so these were the threats actually. And if we talk about that, the conservation measures, that how we are just going to conserve these pollinators, and how can we conserve that, because as you know that they are very much essential for maintaining biodiversity and supporting ecosystems and food security for human beings. But we should take action actually to address these threats also, and to protect our pollinators. And most important conservation measures for pollinators is to protect and restore natural habitats there, and for natural areas and native plants, and restoring degraded habitats, which I will tell you in detail. Like many pollinators, that's the bees and bats, they require specific types of nesting sites to breed. Providing nesting sites as bee houses means these are the small things which you can do, and then conserve these pollinators. And a diverse range of native plants that bloom at different times, that some areas specifically designed even for providing the habitat and pollinators. And reduction of pesticide use, like the reducing pesticide usage is paramount for the conservation, because pesticide actually that should be removed from everywhere, because everywhere it is going to harm the biodiversity of our local listing. And for that, if we go for the integrated pest management, that is very much called that as the IPM practices, and which minimizes the reliance on the chemical pesticide. And what our gardeners or what are the farmers or what even we do, that for just getting rid of that, these are the pests and these are the insects, we just at once we go and then spray the chemical pesticide, which actually that mitigates the negative impacts on pollinators. And we can get the flowers bloom in our garden, even a small garden, but afterwards it gets weeks and it will destroy. And what is the main function of the flower if it is flowering? The main function of the flower is to bloom. It is not blooming for you, just to make you happy. It is blooming and it is flowering because it has to attract the pollinators towards it, because it has to provide nectar to the pollinators. And in the return of that, it is the pollens they are going to spread and to other plants, and it is going to spread their population. That is the main purpose of the blooming of these flowers. It is not blooming for us just to make us happy. So why we are going for this chemical pesticide, which is going to mitigate, which is going on the negative impact? And these IPM, this integrated pest management, these strategies, there are so many, like I'm not going to the detail in that, but there are so many, like the crop rotation, biological control, and habitat restoration, which is very much important for this, and with that promotes actually the ecological balance and reduce pesticide dependency. So And I talked about that what can be the policy and the regulation on our government level, even that when our stakeholders, what are the stakeholders and the government level, that what should be the policy and regulation to actually save these pollinators and for these pollinator conservation. So these policies actually they prioritize the protection and the restoration of pollinator habitats. I've already told you that what are the habitats of these pollinators, and that is the different for different this thing, like the native grasslands, meadows, or the wild flower rich landscapes. And these are the actually habitats, and these regulations they can encourage habitat enhancement like pollinator friendly planting, hedgerow establishment, habitat corridors, okay, for farmers and government agencies. And tough rules should be there. Okay, tough rules actually should be there. And you might have heard of that diclofenac, this thing which is actually very much caused which is very much responsible for the declining of the vulture population of our country. And the government has taken the strict action to ban this diclofenac, and side by side the captive breeding also. We are just reviving our vulture population in some areas. Otherwise, it has gone at the 95%. We have lost our 95% of the population of the vultures, but now it is reviving. But again, it is not the tough rule. Somewhere, someone is using that diclofenac to feed its cows and the cattle for yielding more milk, and that is again harming the vulture population. So the tough rules actually should restrict these harmful pesticide, like this one, this neonicotinoids, that is harmful for the pollinators. Okay, and it should be that in the biological way, we can use that non-chemical pest control for that. And these policies side by side, these policies they need to deal with the invasive species also, because I don't know that you might be knowing is this or not, but these invasive species actually they are causing very much harm to every diversity of this earth on the local level, because that invasive species is not invasive for its own place, but that is invasive for us. Okay, so that is hurting the local diversity of that area. So the strict population policy should be there for managing it is and controlling that this thing. And rules should be there to just getting rid of this invasive species and spot them, and then just get rid of that and then plant our own native species. And another one is very effective way is that the public awareness and education. I have seen in my this last so many years that side by side the restoration also, but side by side that is the public awareness and the education. It is very much effective in the conservation of these pollinators, and they play a very much crucial role in this thing. Like you can just go for the highlighting the importance of the pollinators. They can tell them that what are the pollinators, how they are going to affect you. And it can be the various media channels, even television, radio, social media, print, anything can, because the message that you have to reach the broad audience also, and raising awareness for the conservation effort. And the main thing is that if you hit the local level and at the school level, because I think you all are the professors in your different colleges and the different universities, so you can directly hit your students, and students listen to their teachers very much. Okay, so if you involve these students with you, and those initiatives actually that you can take in the conservation of these pollinators, you tell them that why they are important and how you can conserve them, then that is going to be very effective. And even you can incorporate some subject materials or on these lessons, you can teach them in the classes. You don't need to go into the specific this thing, but even in any sometime you can say that in a week you can take just a small class of them. Okay, come children, we are students, we are just going to discuss today about the pollinators and what is that. So they will that can be a part of a syllabus also, and that cannot be a part of a syllabus. Even you can tell them that okay, yes, we can go for that, and this thing, and you can take them to the field trip also for the showing them that these are the pollinators and how they help them. So field experience is very much an advantage of all these things you can create the projects, workshops, many things. Like here, like you can see that if you involve these children, you involve these groups also, like somewhere in your local groups, your citizens, like that, to tell them that what are the pollinators and how you're going to help them, and what are the different stages of these pollinators, and what is that. So that is really, really helpful to you. And side by side, you just go for the reconnect with the forest also. If you go that they celebrate these urban forests to connect people with the natural heritage, and you might be living somewhere near the sanctuaries or the national parks, or it is not necessary that you must be staying or the living just nearby. You can go to any park even just to show these pollinators. And if you don't find these pollinators over there, then you can tell them that why we are not seeing these pollinators over here, why we are not seeing the butterflies in this park, why we are seeing the butterflies there and we are not seeing here, why we are seeing bees over there and why we are not seeing bees over here. So that is the direct connection, and that is the direct thing which the students can learn, which the locals can learn, when the citizens can immediately they can think of that, yes, we are somewhere lacking in our knowledge, this thing. You can make this type of board in your this thing in your colleges, in your universities, and then place them anywhere, just to get the attract the students, or the even your fellow colleagues also from another background, might necessarily that because the pollinators and fruit, this thing, food, that is for everyone. This is not for the biology students or for anyone else, or the biodiversity student or biodiversity teacher or biology teachers. That is going to affect to each and everyone, because everyone needs food to survive, everyone needs air, everyone needs water. So that is going to affect everyone. So it is for everyone. You can just place them in your colleges or in your universities, everywhere. Make the community gardens, stakeholders, you engage the stakeholders. And even the one thing is that is all this campaign, actually you can call it as the behavior change campaign, because we can whenever we see that okay, that honeybee is there, oh, kill it, because it is going to sting us, it is going to bite us. So that the behavior change campaigns, which can encourage actually the individuals to adopt that pollinator friendly, that how they are helpful in our day-to-day basis, in how they are helpful in our daily bites, which I told you in the first slide, that every bite whatever we are taking, that is the 1/3 of that bite, that is totally dependent on these pollinators. So that is the behavior change campaigns you can run in your this thing in the local city, local colleges, local universities, and all these that citizen science programs, they go for that. And you can just motivate them, like how you can do that. Many small projects you can go for that, that the pollinator monitoring, habitat mapping, biodiversity surveys. Then in that, actually those citizens and then individuals, they directly contribute to your research also and your conservation efforts also. So in the end, now whatever I have just told you about this pollinator, so I'm just telling you that the physical and the practical thing, that how you can create a pollinator's habitat. So first of all, that you should select an area which is at least 0.5 acre in size. If you can get it anywhere, okay, or you can approach any to your local agencies or your local government also, or you can your local principal or like that, because you can get at least a 0.5 acre area. And that will ensure that adequate floral resources for the pollinators. Bigger is better. Small scale planting also, like you can go for the backyard, community garden can also be very beneficial. And first of all, you should start with the grasses and forbs like legumes, which can be started by direct seeding, or in some cases by you can directly transplant from the nursery. Also, you can take buy from the nursery, or you can raise your seedling from the yourself from the seeds also. And those flowering shrubs, and they are best established by the transplanting nursery seedling, because if you take from that seeding, that you can directly sow them in there. And it all depends actually on the local area, because someone is from the Uttarakhand, someone is from the Assam, someone can be from the Rajasthan, UP, or like that. So the plant species will be different to that local place. That is all different thing. And then you will have to determine the soil drainage and other soil limitation factors, because many species, they will not go with the heavy poorly drained, or then the soil must be different, that the saline to sodic. But in everything, you will have to take care that you are not going to use any chemical in that. If you use any chemical, for suppose if you put the urea in that, okay, I want to just grow my plant in 1 month, so, and I'm just putting the urea, so that will destroy your this pollinator habitat. Your that pollinators will not come over here there in the chemical this thing. And for that, then the match plants with the similar site preferences. Suppose if you have that suppose any site where you can see that the most bees species are there, or as butterflies are there, sunbirds are there, I mean that the biodiversity is there, then you can match that site with your that area which you're going to plant, making that as a pollinator this thing. And you can choose the right plant species, which I told you that they can be the different one at and totally dependent on your local this thing, or local place, that wherever you are, that is the place where you can see that these flowers, they are our local, and we are going to plant this thing. And we are planting small flowers, we are planting some funnel shaped flowers, we are planting broad flowers, we are planting white, we are planting many different types of flowers. Some wild species also we are planting, because you will have to give them space for the nesting also. So that is altogether a planned actually this thing, nesting site and everything. And mix you can mix with this and then nest, because habitat or conservatory if you make, it means that is going to be the home for them. And home means they are making nest over there, they are reproduce over there, they are eating over there, and then they are dying over there. So that is the place. They should not leave that place. So for that, you will have to make sure that everything is taken care of for their feeding purpose, for the nesting purpose, everything. And then they're going, if they're going somewhere else also, let them go, and then they should come, because that is an open conservatory. Okay. And the second thing is that is the water wisely. For the best establishment, you can go for the bi-weekly watering, because then again I'm telling you that it can be specific to the place itself. Because if you're making this conservatory in suppose very rainy area, then you don't need to water them. So you should go for the water wisely. And
Sofikur sir, please mute your mic. Sofikur Rahman sir, it's disturbing sir, please.
Dr. Sofikur Rahman sir, please mute your microphone.
Thank you. And actually, and all these landing, actually, we should protect these planting from the wild stock and the livestock also, because whatever you are going to make the conservatory, ultimately you are going to protect them, because if you are not going to protect them, then it can be destroyed by the other factors, like which are around at the livestock, or many times actually the human being, they are destroying those conservatory, and they're attracted by that, and sometimes it is the wildlife also. And I'm not saying that they are destroying that wildlife, because in the initial stage, actually, you will have to protect that. And after that, when it becomes like a full-fledged this thing, your conservatory sort of, or your full-fledged area for the conservation of these pollinators, then that can be welcomed by another species, wild species also, because that can be enhanced, and that is going to protect your conservatory also, and it will help in generating more this thing, flowers and this thing. And this thing, and that you don't have to delitter it, because you have to maintain the plant and leave the litter as it is wherever it is. Okay, because that litter, actually, it increase the humus in the soil, and it will give you the most, because some species of the pollinators and the wasp, they make nest in the soil also, and these litter, actually, it helps in making this nesting sites, and it creates your soil protection also. Your soil becomes more nutrient full also because of this litter, and it controls the weed also, and it increases the organic matter also. So leave the litter as it is, don't clean that. And now I'm showing the practical example, because I'm working in the for the last 20 years in the Aravali Biodiversity Park in the Delhi, which is a program of the Delhi University. And we have developed many biodiversity parks in the Delhi. So one in which I'm working, that is the Aravali Biodiversity Park. That's the biggest biodiversity park. I think I have shown in the 1 week back with the Dr. Shah Hussain, which he has shown you this thing about all these biodiversity parks. So here I'm talking about that the pollinator conservatory we have developed, because we are working in the degraded habitat. Whatever the area is given to us by the government, that is the degraded one. So we have to deal with that degradation, whether it's a form of a rocky or abusive land, or it's sewage water or like that. So we have just going for the restoration of these. So in the restoration process, we are going to, because the pollinators, they are the main part of this. You can say that the part of the biodiversity. So we have developed the butterfly conservatory also, and then side by side we have developed the pollinator conservatory also, and that is totally in the degraded area. So I'm showing you it because that how you can develop these things in your area. It is not necessary that you are getting that the degraded area. So it might be possible that you are not going through so many stages for the getting rid of those degradation type, but how you can go for that. This was the area actually which we received in the 2019, and you can say that this 2019 and in 2020, that was the COVID area time also. And we are working in that COVID time, and when everything was closed in Delhi, everything, then we used to come over here with our some laborers also. We are working here just to develop that this pollinator conservatory in this area. Now you can see that how much degraded is that. Is this a rock, and this land, it is very much abusive land. And I cannot show you in this small photograph. Actually, it's a big area, and it's in the heart of the Delhi. It is near, if somebody has been to Delhi, then it is just near the Vasant. We are at the Vasant Kunj, and it's the heart, and it's in the island, this Aravali Biodiversity Park. So we have just taken of that this one degraded area, and we have started to think of that as a pollinator conservatory. So like this was the area. Here you can see that this is all the chenopodium, like this invasive species was there, and some species of the acacia leucofloya. Okay, this is not the invasive species, these are the native species which will have to keep this thing, because we are not going to take out any native species from the area. This is the Adatoda, again this is the native species, some grasses are there. So we have just kept all these native species in this intact, and then we started removing this thing. First of all, we have fenced the area, that how much area we are going to protect this thing. And this one is the actually that shrub which I talked about, that the Caparis decidua, which is the teat, which I told you that the specific butterflies which lays eggs, the pioneer butterflies which lays its eggs on this also. This is a native wild shrub of the Aravallis hills, from the Gujarat to this thing, you can say that the Delhi. So this was, luckily it was there in that patch, so we have left this thing also. So we have first gone for the fencing the area, then we have started the cleaning weeds and the invasive species from this area, because this is the degraded. I mean to say that what is the degraded? Degraded means that it is infested with the invasive species, which is soil quality is very low or no soil quality, with no, you can say that the organic matter is there. So how to grow plants? So we have started this thing by removing weeds and the invasive species from that area. And then in 2022, we have just sort of make some you can say that the outline of this, that okay, our pollinator conservatory will be like that. So we have just specified the routes and like that for the trails, and then for the plants or planters also, like make some like where we will plant which plant, and which flower, which shrubs, which trees, and we have just make some landscaping in the 20. And then again, from that another side, you can see that this is all totally over this thing, and we have just gone for the planters and making some landscaping. Actually, that somewhere it is high, somewhere it is low, valley sort of, because we don't change actually the landscape of our area. Whatever it is there, we just work on that, and accordingly we go for the plantation and develop the habitat. And then we have, in some depression, we have developed the water bodies of the different sizes. We have developed 3 water bodies in this whole conservatory, pollinator conservatory. This is the bigger one, then there's a small one, because the bees or the wasps or the butterflies, they very much attract to the water, because if water is there, then they are there. Because it's a saying also, because our one teacher used to teach us in our MSc times. So whenever he takes us to field in the forest, then he used to tell us that, okay, if you want to find that where the water is, because somewhere is stuck in the forest, and someone asks you that where the water is, then you can see if there are bees around. Then you can at once you can think of that, okay, the bees are there, must be water is around. So in that way you can find that the affinity of the water. And obviously water, everyone needs water, like the sunbirds, bats and everything. And if you go for the making the birds habitat or the bat habitat even, then you must have this water around in this, and to create these water bodies. So we have created this of different sizes, this small. And in this, it has taken shape in the 2021, and different types of flowers we have taken. We have planted different shrubs, wild shrubs we have planted over there. And this one, we have just made this thing, and some landscaping we have done. This thing, planting the, you can say that grasses also around, because we have to make it as a wild. It is not a concrete wetland of this thing, because if we are creating this water body, though, it must be the complete ecosystem in that. It must be natural. It must be the frog, snakes, everything should be there. Birds should be visit there, and even in the water, plants should be there, and it should be the natural. You can say that the complete ecosystem that is not managed by the human being. Only time to time you have to fill with the water, even in the summer season if the water is not there. So that is the landscaping. Now it has been taken shape. Now the grasses are there, and again some wild flowers and like that. And you can see that it is not in the very much horticulture type of this thing, like somewhere it is flowering and somewhere it is that shrubs are there, and somewhere the flowers can bloom anywhere. uh, Everything is in wild way, because species which you are going to attract to these place, that is those are the wild species, so they need wild. So that's why if you go to any other horticulture park, man managed park horticulture, you can say that the park, you won't see the butterflies over there, you won't see the honeybees over there. Honeybee, okay, you can see, but not much more. And only the butterflies, even very few butterflies you can see over there. You cannot see much butterflies over there. Why? Because they're the wild species, they're not domestic one. So they need the wild scapes, they need the wild spaces for this, to for their habitat. So here again we have just made for just experimenting this we made this insect house also in 2022, just to give them, in starting to give them space for the nesting. And whenever there's fully fledged, this will develop, then we can shift this insect house to some another place where we are going to develop another conservatory. So in the starting we are just going to give them space for making the nesting purposes. And it is nest of the many wasps also, many small honeybees also, many spiders also even. So they make just nest in this, and they breed their population, and they lay eggs in this insect house. And this is again this thing. And because I'm not able to show you the wide angle in this photographs, but it's a big area, and it is taking its shape. And in this process, we have just encountered many butterfly species. Even we have encountered this beehive actually. And this is the you can say that the success of this pollinator conservatory, because we are not going to bring any animal species in that. We have, what we did, we just provided the habitat, we have just created the habitat, and whatever it is we are sighting over here, these moths, these sunbirds, butterflies, beetles, and this beehive, it is coming by their own. Okay, why they are coming by their own? Because they find the suitable habitat. They are seeing that this is the habitat for us to breed, to rest, to make nest, to feed, for every purpose. So that's why they are coming over here. And this is again the one view of that conservatory. Everything is in wild one. We cannot say that some paths are there, but it is totally a wild, this thing. And now you can see that the butterfly species, there are at least 5 to 6, not 5 to 6, it is at least 10 to 12 butterfly species are there in this photograph, which you can make out that what are the butterflies. This butterfly species is different, is different, this is different, this is different, this is different. Even these are the different butterfly species. So many species and many small butterflies are there, which you cannot see even in these small photographs. So, but yes, we are just waiting for the bats also in it. And the once we see the bat in this conservatory, we have bats in our Aravali Biodiversity Park, but I am talking about this particular pollinator conservatory. And maybe it is coming, because I have not encountered this bat in that conservatory, but it doesn't mean that it is not coming. Maybe it is coming and then going back to their cave or to their roosting site, going back. So, but that day till I'm seeing, I will see that this bat in this conservatory, it means that is the full, this thing. And thank you very much for your all this thing. And but just I was just want to say that it's on us only just to conserve these butterflies and anything, if we just go for this thing. And it's totally, I think, on us only, that we are degrading it, and we are only actually that we can just make them that sure that this is their habitat, and okay, we can conserve them. Thank you so much.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful talk. Audience, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you, madam.
Ma'am,
Thank you so much.
Sir,
Yeah.
ma'am.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैडम.
ma'am, this
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, thank you.
Thank you,
If
ma'am.
you have any question, please just let me know. कोई भी question जो दिमाग में आ रहा हो,
Thank
कुछ
you,
भी
ma'am.
पूछना हो, कैसे भी,
hello.
कैसे भी.
This is Anirban
Yeah.
Gupta from Bengal.
Okay.
Just scraping through certain articles while you were discussing. So I came up with an article where I could find this is almost a dystopian scenario where there is a future possibility of pollinating drones, of bringing
Yeah.
pollinating drones, and if that happens, then I guess that's the worst scenario that can possibly come. So we need to really act.
Yeah. Yeah, they're talking about that the pollinating drones that we are not thinking of that God has given us natural pollinating drone, that is the butterflies and the bees and bats. They are our drones actually in the natural form, and we are destroying them, and then we are going in the you can say that artificial way for pollinating this thing, but in another way that is going to harm our birds and other biodiversity of the area, because it cannot be one-sided thinking that okay, we are just going to conserve that the pollinators, so we have to go for the pollination purpose, we are going to just for this pollinating drone or like that. Again, it is going to hamper some another biodiversity of that area. So if we are just going to conserve anything, we have to go in a simultaneously and in a holistic approach. Actually, we cannot do anything in any isolation.
Play a
We have
lot.
to think in a
I
whole thing.
Spike is playing a lot, because if that doesn't stop, we have such places where we can conserve these species.
Yeah, we have so many species, because if you're talking about that the West Bengal or many other places also, they are actually very much rich in biodiversity. So in those local spaces, actually, if you are just conserve and make some small conservatory, like you all are professors, so if you just go and you can say that encourage your students and your local citizens and your local community, that can hamper a lot actually. And you people are really on one edge, that because you have students on your side. We are not having students on our side, because we are not professors, or we are not lecturers, or we're not this thing working in that directly in that teaching system. Okay, we are scientists, but you are having edge with your having that totally, you can say that a mass with you. Okay,
Actually,
and then you can mobilize.
I'm from the humanities departments, but in my college, in the botany department, we have a butterfly garden.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay.
That was made because of the issues. We have a conservatory in our college.
Very good. So, like you have that butterfly garden. So, first of all, you can make it as a conservatory. Okay, just because the giving a different name or to that, from garden to conservatory, you can change the whole scenario. I must tell you that just by changing this thing, and and side by side, not only the butterflies, you can call it as the pollinator conservatory, giving a broad view, because it is the butterflies also who are the pollinating, and for that you are attracting the whole biodiversity in that. Okay, so that is going to serve a very good this thing purpose of your, and it's very good that you have made this butterfly garden in that. This thing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other question?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. No, I would like to invite Dr. Ahmed Masood Khan for vote of thanks.
Okay, vote of thanks.
Dear participants, it is with great pleasure that I extend my sincere thanks to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Aisha Sultana, for her talk on the vital topic of pollinators, importance and conservation, pollinators-plant interaction. Dr. Aisha Sultana's today's talk was informative, educational, and interesting. She took us on a journey into the intricate world of pollinators, shedding light on the paramount importance in sustaining our ecosystem. Her comprehensive discussion on the delicate balance of the pollinator-plant interaction was both informative and eye-opening. We are truly fortunate to have had Dr. Sultana share her wealth of knowledge, research, and experiences with us. Through her engaging presentation, she has not only increased our understanding of the crucial role played by the pollinators, but also inspired a collective sense of responsibility towards their conservation. As we leave here today, let us carry forward the valuable insights provided by Dr. Aisha Sultana. May we all be inspired to contribute to the conservation of pollinators and strive toward a harmonious coexistence with nature. Once again, thank you, Dr. Aisha Sultana, for your illuminating talk and for enriching our understanding of the critical role that pollinators play in our world. We look forward to more such enlightening sessions in the future. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Very nice lecture. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
madam.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, dear participants, now we are actually closing today's session, and we welcome you to the feedback and I can say the closing session of biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. The duration of this short-term course, we have a diverse range of speakers starting from day first. We have Professor Munawar Alam Khalid from Integral University. He actually talks about biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. Then we have Dr. Muhammad Shah Hussain, scientist from University of Delhi. And then we have Professor Milan from Pune University. Then in the second session of second day, we have Dr. Amrina Khan from Integral University. In the third day, we have Professor Ulus Elias from Department of Wildlife Sciences. In the third day of second session, we have Professor Richa Kothari from Central University of Jammu. Then in the fourth day, we have Professor Sushil Verma. We talk about the reproductive biology and conservation of the threatened plants. And in the second session, Dr. Khurshid Ahmed from Squash University, Srinagar, talk about biodiversity conservation. And in the fifth day, we have Professor A.L. Ramanathans. We actually talk about in the two sessions, one glaciers and another on marine ecosystems. And now in the last day, we have two sessions. The first was actually led by Professor Satish Kumar, and he talked about biodiversity conservation in India with different approaches. And in the last session, Dr. Aisha Sultana enlightened about the pollinators, their importance in the conservations. So we have actually endeavored to provide you with the best, highest quality resource across the country. While we put forth our best efforts, we acknowledge that there is always room for the improvement, and your feedback will be invaluable in assessing whether we have achieved our objectives in this course on biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. Therefore, I kindly request each of you to share your feedback. Those interested, please raise your hand and we will invite you to provide your input.
सर फीडबैक का मैसेज डिलीट किया हुआ है.
You can directly talk about the course. Anyone who is interested can talk about this, your experience.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Maitri.
Sir, I am.
Hello, sir.
Dr. Maitri, please.
Hello, sir.
Samuel Sheikh. Officer, Department of Biology and Conservation. Hello, sir.
Sir, I am Dr. Minal Patil from Alibag, Maharashtra.
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Sir, I should raise the hand.
So,
Hello, sir.
Honorable Dr. Madam, and other respected officials of UGC, HRDC, Muslim University, and all the learned participants from all over the country in this short-term course. And Dr. Kamil Sheikh is the Professor Department of Biology, BM College, Assam. It gives me immense pleasure to speak before you, share my experience as a participant of this short-term course. It was really a great learning program in a pleasant environment provided by AMU. I convey my sincere thanks to the AMU authority. I'm also grateful to all the resource persons for the resourceful lectures and interactions during the sessions. So with this, I'd like to conclude. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
I am Dr. Kishore Maitri. Hello, sir. First of all, thanks to the course coordinator of Aligarh University. I am Dr. Kishore Maitri, Department of Political Science, Gokte Wake College, Banda, District Sindhudurg, Maharashtra State. I joined for the short-term course on biodiversity, conservation and sustainable development. Although I am a professor of political science, during this course, I got good knowledge about biodiversity, conservation and sustainable development. I will pass this information on to my student. The course coordination was very good, and the professors who are expert on various topics gave good information. I once again thank the coordinator of this course. Thank you.
Sir, this is Anirban
Sir,
Kanpur College, West Bengal, and my background is English literature. I attended Aligarh Muslim University STC last year as well on e-content, and this time for biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. This was a great course, wonderful learning experience. I'll definitely extract all the things that I have learned, and I would definitely pass on to my students. But one thing that I would always want, UGC had always wanted these courses to take place, whether it be orientation programs, FIP or refresher and STC. There was always this agenda of national integration. I guess that can best happen in offline mode, because I have also attended offline courses like this. But online courses are really good, but they can be made much better if we interact physically beyond the class hours as well, and that helps really. Kalim sir, you have muted your audio. Kindly unmute.
Okay, thank you, Anubhav Goh sir. Because UGC have nowadays guidelines that these courses, refresher courses, short-term courses, and all the other courses shall be taken place online mode. So whenever the guidelines should be relaxed, we will go again to the offline modes. I'm agreed with you that offline is always better than the online, but there is always a little bit scope in online course also, that we can learn, we can share, and we can collaborate the things.
Hello, sir. Any feedback link for us?
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Any feedback link for us?
We are actually taking feedback from you, that how we actually, whether we have achieved this objective or not. It's our turn, ma'am. We have delivered from the last, try to deliver from the last 6 days. Now it's your turn, that you share your experience throughout this course.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Namaste,
Good morning, sir.
I
am Dr. Hello, I am Dr. Snelata from Radhari Government PG College, Kashipur, Uttarakhand. First of all, I would like to thank Director HRDC AMU and Course Coordinator Dr. Kalim Ahmed sir for providing me a golden opportunity to be a part of this wonderful short-term course on biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. The course was well organized with excellent sessions. This short-term course has been very informative and productive for all of us. All the lectures covered many important topics related with biodiversity conservation sustainable goals. I extend my sincere thanks to course coordinator for arranging such eminent and renowned resource persons from different well institutions, organizations. They discussed and presented global scenario of various aspects of biodiversity and conservation, and they interacted very well with patients and cleared our queries and doubts. और पिछले सर 1 वीक में हम लोगों ने काफी कुछ सीखा है अलग अलग एस्पेक्ट्स पे, और जो भी हमने अपनी नॉलेज गेन की है मैं क्लास में स्टूडेंट्स को उस नॉलेज को बताना चाहूंगी. और थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू ऑल.
Thank you, Dr. Snehalata, for your kind words. And Dr. Manni, if you want to speak.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. मैं डॉक्टर मेदिनी अंजनेकर फ्रॉम मुंबई यूनिवर्सिटी भवंस कॉलेज अंधेरी. मैं हिंदी लिटरेचर पढ़ाती हूँ और मुझे ये अलग टॉपिक था इसलिए मैंने ज्वाइन किया था और मेरे लिए बहुत यूजफुल हुआ कि हम हमेशा लिटरेचर पढ़ते हैं, उसमें नेचर की सुंदरता को हम देखते हैं और पढ़ाते हैं, बट जहाँ नेचर की यूजफुल नेचर कितना है और हम उसे कैसे बचा सकते हैं और उसमें जो अलग अलग थिंग्स है उसके बारे में बहुत बारीकी के साथ सारा डिटेल इंफॉर्मेशन यहाँ पे मिली जो मैं मेरे शेयर कर सकती हूँ. लिटरेचर के साथ साथ ये इंफॉर्मेशन मेरे लिए बहुत यूजफुल रही और मैंने बहुत मतलब एंजॉय किया कोर्स में, बहुत नॉलेज मिला मुझे. थैंक यू सो मच सर हमारे लिए ये अपॉर्चुनिटी आपने दी और ये अलग सा एक टॉपिक भी हमारे लिए पढ़ने के लिए मिला. हमें जय विविध में कहते हैं सर और इस कोर्स के कारण मैंने उसकी पूरी पढ़ाई हिंदी में की है तो मेरा नॉलेज सच में बढ़ा है और यहाँ पे मैंने सुना भी है तो उससे बहुत रहा है और आपकी ओर से पूरी सहायता हमें मिली है. थैंक यू सो मच कोऑर्डिनेटर एंड ऑल. थैंक यू सर.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
नहीं है शायद.
Sir, excuse me.
हाँ सर.
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, I am myself Dheeraj Kumar Bora from Department of Zoology, Gwalior College from Assam, sir. Sir, first of all, I would like to thank the director and the entire HRDC team for organizing such a beautiful, such a wonderful short-term course on such a relevant topic that is biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. And through galaxy of intellectual, renowned academicians and scientists across the country, starting from Professor Manwar Alam Khalid, the renowned scientist, and then Mohammad Shah Hussain, then Professor Milind Sardesai, Professor Amrina Sadar Khan, Professor Orus Ilyas, Professor Richa Kothari, Professor Khurshid Ahmed, Professor Sushil Barma, Professor A.L. Ramanathan, and Professor Satish Kumar, Professor Aisha Sultana. I am very much thankful to all the esteemed resource persons for giving such a knowledgeable lecture during the course of this 7 days of short-term course. And I extend my sincere acknowledgement to the esteemed participants and the entire HRDC team. And thank you so much, sir, Kalim sir and Masood sir, for your beautiful arrangement of this short-term course. And thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Dheeraj Kumar, for your feedback for the entire course, and we hope that you have learned a lot. Anyone else who wants to give feedback? Minali Patel.
Sir, I am Dr. Meenal Patil from Bombay University. So your session was very nice and all your team worked hard and all the lectures were very informative. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And we have posted our PPT also.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Meenal Patel, ma'am, for your words. So, anyone else who wants to give any feedback on this? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
This is
please.
Dr. Rajendra Shevde.
Please.
Sir, being actually I belong to botany department from Maharashtra, Mumbai University. My college is located in a very remote area, and I'm very much thankful to Director HRDC, UGC, HRDC, AMU, and to you also, Kalim sir, the course coordinator. Being botanist, actually most of the lectures are concerned with my subject, but specifically Ramanathan sir, actually came to know different knowledge about the glaciers and all these things. So I'm very much thankful to Aligarh Muslim University, HRDC, director, and the whole your supporting team. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Rajendra Shevd sir, for your words. So, last में हम यही कह सकते हैं कि biodiversity, because you are from different backgrounds. Some are from botany, some are from zoology, some from arts backgrounds, even some ma'ams are from Hindi backgrounds. But the biodiversity is concerned to each and everyone. जो आर्ट्स पढ़ रहा है ऐसा नहीं है कि उसको बायोडाइवर्सिटी से कुछ लेना नहीं है. Everyone is actually linked to the biodiversity. Biodiversity is there, so then we only can live. Otherwise, our survival and our existence is not possible without that. So that's the main theme, and that's the idea behind this particular course. That's why we designed this particular course, that the people from the different backgrounds come forward and learn the things which are actually not belong to their regular course. And the idea is that you can share this knowledge, that whatever you have gained, whatever you have learned from these 7 days, that you can share this to your students, to the other faculty members, and in your community, not limited to your college itself, but your community, your village, your city, because each and everyone is linked, whether it's in the college or whether it's those are in at homes, to each and everyone. So in the concluding remarks, we conclude this enlightening journey of our short-term course on biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. Let us carry forward, I can say, the torch of awareness and actions. Remember, every individual actions counts in the grand tapestry of the conservations. Let our collective commitment to preserving biodiversity resonate behind these walls into our communities and the world at large. As ambassador for nature, let us advocate, innovate, and collaborate for a sustainable futures where biodiversity actually thrives. Together, I can say we can make a difference. Thank you for your passion, dedication, I can say, and contributions. Let's continue to be a stewards of our planet, ensuring a legacy of abundance for generations to come. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and to be with us in these 7 days. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, sir, for giving us a
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kalim sir.
Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Professor Kalim, sir.
Thank you so much, Kalim.
All the best for your future activities, Kalim sir. All the best.
Thank
you so much.
all participants. हेलो कलीम सर
जी मंजूरी मैम
जी सर वो रिलीविंग सर्टिफिकेट मिल पाएगा हम लोग को मेल से
हाँ आपको HRDC टीम्स आपको वो प्रोवाइड करेंगे. I'm also sorry to say that I'm actually thankful to the entire HRDC team, technical team, who actually provides all the facilitate us throughout this course, and Mr. Mahazar actually take a lot of pain in generating the link and providing the things in a timely manner, and he will you will soon can say get your relieving certificate as well as the certificate of the participations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Kalim sir, excuse me.
Yes, Dheeraj Kumar sir.
Sir, can you kindly provide the PPTs of those resource persons, if possible, in this group?
we will try that. We will arrange the PPTs, because we don't have PPTs with us. It's with the resource person. We will request them that they will provide us, and we will share with you all, of you, on your respective emails.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
सर कलीम सर
Yes,
हाँ
Jatin.
सर मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि कॉलेज से
जी सर.
मुझे रिलीविंग लेटर मिल नहीं पाया था, पेपर नहीं थे, क्या आप सबमिट कर सकते हैं?
आप अगर ऑनलाइन सबमिट हो रहा है तो कर दें उसको.
ठीक है सर,
ठीक.
धन्यवाद सर.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir, and everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Have
you,
a nice
sir.
day.
Thanks again. Thanks again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, खत्म. सब खत्म हो गया. लो भाई. हो गया. देखो खत्म. हाँ, अब जो आएगा सब लिंक पे आएगा. फिर आएगा. खत्म. खत्म. जो कुछ बस लिंक आएगा तब आप कुछ करना. लिंक पर. अच्छा वो देख लो गूगल. अब है पर कुछ नहीं होते. अब कुछ नहीं आया सर. नहीं आया. हाँ 26 तारीख का ही है. जो आएगा तो मेल पे ही आएगा. टेंशन लेने की जरूरत नहीं. टेंशन नहीं लेने का. इसको हटा दूं. अरे सर जल्दी कर दिया. बता दिया बस. ये फिर आ गया. ये सर आपको ना करनी बात है तो कुछ नहीं कर पाते. ज्यादा बढ़ गया. हट गया. कम खेल. हाँ बस खत्म खेल. अब ये वाईफाई जुड़ा था क्या तुम्हारा? हाँ सब सही थी. अब सही है सब. हाँ कोई टेंशन नहीं. टेंशन नहीं. अभी हमारे वो अलग कर देना आज. वही चलो उनको बुलाएं पहले. वही साहब जी. हम तो आपको रख देंगे पैसे. सबके सामने नहीं.
हेलो ब्रजेश जी. ब्रजेश सोनकर. हेलो.
आवाज आ रहा है?
एक मिनट.
कटा नहीं है. एक पार्टी कटा नहीं है. एक कटा नहीं है. कटा नहीं है.